Good morning. Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. FloTrack podcast at gmail.com is our email address. I am Kevin Sully. On the right side of your screen, joined on the left side of the screen by Gordon Mack, adorned in a Lehigh shirt today, Gordon.
Yes, this is my brother's gift to me from I guess 15 years ago. I don't know how long ago. He graduated college in 2006, so he gave me this shirt.
Same. Same as me.
Yeah.
Class of
Oh yeah.
'06. Yeah.
So you guys are friends.
I don't fit in any shirts from 15 years ago, just as a fact check there. Gordon, of course, has the inspirational quote behind him. I countered with one of my own. The best is yet to come today. So who knows? In a couple weeks, maybe it's just going to be wall to wall inspirational things that you see on Etsy, just in our backdrop here, Gordon.
Now I've been doing a lot of thinking. Like we're doing this daily podcast where we have to come up with track topics. But I just have to get this off my chest. Have you seen Tiger King yet?
I am 98% done with it.
90. How do you get 90? What's the final 2%? Like the last 5 minutes?
I fell asleep at 20 minutes ago last night.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Without knowing the final 20 minutes, what are your
Is there
thoughts?
anything crazy? There's nothing crazy that happens in that show, so I can't possibly believe that the last 20 minutes there'd be another twist. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. I I really like documentaries, sports documentaries, news documentaries. It doesn't matter the subject. Like I'm big into documentaries, and most documentary shows or series, whether it's true crime or even sports, there's that one twist that happens 55% of the way through, and it makes you change your opinion on something. There's a twist in this thing about every 4 minutes. It is nuts. It is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it was like a ping pong match where literally I was defending the other person back and forth. Like I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
I'm clearly on Team Joe. Oh no, I'm on Team Carol. Oh no, I'm back on Team Joe. And I never thought there's nothing that could happen that would make me switch, and then something would happen, and I would switch, and then I would switch back. And how do you? I guess you haven't seen the last 20 minutes, so I can't ask you where you ended your position. But where's your position now with 20 minutes left in the episode to go? Like who
Well,
do
my
you?
position. Well, I think he was set up for sure, right? Um, are you asking who do I find more trustworthy between the two of them?
If you had to pick someone to yeah, no, no, yeah, who would you rather be? Yeah, yeah, who do you trust more? Yeah, I guess that's the right word. I don't
I,
know
I,
because they're
I, I
both flawed. So
yeah. I would put her slightly above him, and this is with 20 minutes to go. Now I'm really regretting not finishing the thing because do you know the only and you can actually I don't want you to spoil this for me, but the only person who really comes out unscathed in terms of and I could be completely wrong here because I haven't finished it, but the only person who comes across as they don't have this crazy side story is her husband, right? Like the literally the only guy.
yeah, there's a little scene with the husband that kind of just like annoys you, but you'll see. Oh, man, I
Okay.
wish you would have watched the final 20 minutes.
Shoot. See, I should have done. I didn't realize I prepped in terms of track topics for
Yeah,
today's show. I did not prep in terms of Tiger King. I will say this though: the side characters are what does it for me in that show. It's not even really so much about Carol and Tiger Man himself. It's like the other random animal keepers and the guy who was he a drug trafficker and then he gets into and he was involved in a murder and then now he's just into exotic animals. Obviously the men that Joe married throughout the years. It's just like never ending. Like if you miss one episode in that thing or you miss 20 minutes, you're like you're down like six or seven plot twists and character development points. I mean the amount of stuff that changes is just it's just absolutely obscene. And there's a track connection though to it, right?
yeah. There's one track connection. Uh, During episode 2, I believe, when Doc Antle, the South Carolina preserve
That guy.
guy, Myrtle Beach guy,
That
the
guy.
that guy who had a lot of girlfriends. There was a moment when they're talking about how people like taking their photos with these cubs or tigers, and they did a quick montage of like photos of him with tigers with people who were taking the photos, and one of the photos they flashed was of long jumping Olympian Marquise Goodwin. That's ridiculous.
So it's so random, but it's also so like it fits in perfectly with the show. Where are you? Do you have a need to hold a baby tiger cub in your life?
No, I have been to a party where there was exotic animals for people to hold. I did not
Okay.
partake. I took a photo because I was like, "This is weird." But looking back on it, I'm like, "Oh, okay, this was clearly it was a rich person's party." For the record, it was like this
Oh,
mansion in Texas or something like that. But I remember seeing it, and I was kind of like, "This is random. Like, why do they have like a?" It was like they brought them in. Like it wasn't like their own tiger. It was like, "Hey, we're bringing in the exotic animals now for you to look at," and like people would play with them. I saw it. I was
yeah.
like, "This is weird," because they were like literally in like baby like they were like in baby cribs. It was like weird,
Yeah.
these cubs and anyway. But I never really have had the fascination to want to hold a cub or a tiger. I'm
No.
kind of like, all right, cool. Like,
Same.
if someone
Same.
gives
That's
one to
why.
me, I'll hold it, but I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna pay for it or drive somewhere 20 hours away to go hold one.
What did they say the price was? I think it was in episode 1 or 2 to get into the
Yeah, it's
park.
like
It's hundreds of dollars, right?
yeah, it's like $300 or $500 to get into the park. So it's not like a regular zoo ticket where you pay like $20. It's like it's insane.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah. The whole thing is completely wild. And when they did that montage and Marquise Goodwin shows up and they're talking about how people are drawn to it, that just never was my impression of holding a baby tiger. It was not on a bucket list of things that I needed to do before I died. It's very. I think it's strange too how connected it is to like organized crime and other criminal opportunities. Like there's this shady guy in Vegas and he might be running a credit card scam and he also invests in exotic animals. I didn't know that those were related at all.
do you think Goodwin has like second thoughts now because like he's now kind of like shown as be like a apologist for exotic animals treatment or something like that?
No,
I don't know.
no. I mean, the one dude went up to Capitol Hill and like took in like tigers to like Congress people. So I think everybody was uh was drawn to this in some way, shape, or form. I mean, if there's a guy standing by like the beach in Santa Monica and he has like a monkey on his shoulder, everyone's going to stop and take a picture, right? That's just like
Yeah,
how people interact with animals. Now, what I'm not paying $300 to go to Wynwood, Oklahoma. Is that where this was? Wynwood,
so,
somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm not.
Myrtle
I'm
Beach in
not.
South Carolina.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not going all the way over there to do it. But I think it's human curiosity to see it. But man, just like talk about the just cast of characters in that thing. Like any one of those characters alone could have been their own show, right? Like the guy who gets out of prison and then does a who from trafficking drugs. Like I would watch a spinoff documentary on him. I would watch a Doc Antle documentary. I would obviously watch a Carol documentary that's 100% on Carol. Like how many like the role players in this doc are so good.
I was trying to think of obviously because I have to do this daily track podcast. I have to find ways to connect things I'm doing outside of track with track because there's no live events right now. And I was trying to think, all right, this like you said, is very diverse cast of characters from different like personalities and all that together. And I was like, all right, how do we? What is like the person? You know how there's always like cliche type of athlete or coach on a track team, whether it's like the cliche thrower, the jumper, or the lazy distance runner or whatever. I was trying to like
Yeah.
who is Joe Exotic if it was a track team? Like what if it was a track team? Who's a Joe Exotic guy on a track team? And I was trying to think. I think Joe Exotic is the the guy who for some reason you're when you come in as a freshman you're wondering why is this guy not cut from the team. Like do you remember when you come like I remember coming into college as a freshman and I see like this one senior guy who was definitely not fit. He was a little overweight but he was still on the team and he was like one of the leaders of the team and I was like but he was like slower than all the freshmen. And I'm like, how is this guy still on this team? He kind of got grandfathered in before the team started like actually like caring, I guess. So he kind of like
Yeah.
riding like, well, you let me in early, so you can't get rid of me now. I feel like Joe Exotic is the senior who is slower than everyone else, but for some reason is considered like a pillar of the team. That's who he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like
that
he's the one
makes
who hosts
sense.
the parties. He's the one who does all the plans for like the, like the freshman hazing. He does all the. He's like the leader of the team, but when it actually comes to running, he's running, the C race for the cross country team. That's what I feel.
Everybody, well, everybody goes along with what he says, but no one really likes him, but he's just there. He's just like
Yeah,
an institution. It's like, why are we doing this? Oh, it's because Joe Cross Country told us to do it. It's like, well, does anybody stop and actually think about what Joe Cross Country is saying? It's like, no, we've just always kind of done what Joe Cross Country does. I thought about a guy I went to high school with. Um, he did not commit any crimes and he did not have any exotic animals, but he was he did the for track. He ran the 4x8, the mile, and he was our best high jumper. And he was insanely talented. We'd go out for runs around the community, and he and another guy figured out how you could get into the sewer system by our high school. And they would run parallel to where we were, and they would yell, and you would hear the noises coming up from underground, like through the grates in the gutter. Um, he would never really warm up. His warm up would be like sometimes you'd see him like climbing on trash cans. Um, he had a very circus like athletic ability. Like he would climb up like into the bleachers and do all this dangerous, ridiculous stuff. And I remember one time me and my buddy were talking to him. We had finished a race and we were cooling down, but the high jump was still going on. And we were standing by the gate and we were talking to him, and he was still in his uniform. And we were just making small talk with him. And then he cut us off and we're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, I got to jump right now. And we're like, what? And he just turns around from the gate and then sprints at the bar and jumps. So like that was his preparation to go high jump. But just like a very like everybody knows that sort of like insanely talented, but like very, very quirky person on the team as well too.
and like not disciplined, just like
No,
stay and have fun. Yeah. Here's
exactly.
did this person that existed in high school for you? Was there a time during practice where you tried to do a pole vault? I feel like he's someone who would do that. It was just, there's
Oh
always that
yeah.
one guy who's like, oh, I'm going to try pole vaulting for a day.
Yeah. He tried everything. Like literally, my coach one time yelled at him. He yelled his name and he said, "Stop climbing on the trash cans."
How do you climb on a
And that
trash
was
can?
he had stacked the trash cans up and put one after the other, so they were like rolling. So it was like a circus act, and he was trying to go from one to the next to the next. Like the fact that he didn't break every single bone in his body, and I guess is how you tie it back to Joe Exotic, right? Like the fact that he wasn't eaten by a tiger numerous times was a small miracle, and I think that's the same thing here with my guy. Although very nice guy, did not say terrible things about Carol Baskin, but just his like approach to life, the whimsy was what I thought of.
Here's another one. Doc Antle, the one who is the the older guy with the beard from South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. He's very the wealthy one of the group. He is the
Yes,
he is the like the coach of the distance squad for like the rich school in your town. That like for some reason they always like show up and they always have like 12 guys who are good, and he's like this like overweight coach who's just like always like for some reason
he's
they
very
just
into
show up.
himself.
He's very into himself, and they always like do well, and it's always annoying because like, oh, I got to race. I mean, I could think of specific schools in high school that like, oh, they're so like like the uppity rich cross country team that just always dominates you because you're not good enough because they have like for some reason 12 good guys. But he's the coach of that squad. That's what Doc Antle is. I'm trying to think who
That
Carroll is, and
well,
eventually I'll
that's a
figure that
good
out.
that's a good comparison because when I think Doc Antle, I think guy who is super proud of being good at something that nobody really cares that much about, and that would fit that bill perfectly. Like
High school cross country,
the
yeah.
Well, I mean, I love high school cross country. I was a high school cross country coach at one point, but too into it, too
Yeah.
into. Well, we had 6 all league performances last
Yeah,
week,
yeah, yeah.
Gordon.
Like they don't do well at state, but they're like really good at the district level. Yeah, those type of people.
Yeah, or they'll send you their time trial results, and you're like, great, you did a time trial. Like, we don't really need to know this, Doc Antle. Also, get off the elephant. An elephant is not allowed on the cross country course. Carol, man. Now, legal issues aside with that, or legal questions aside with Carol, I mean, she's definitely into like following outwardly at least rules, right?
Yeah. She
She's
seems like the person who wins a lot of races, or the coach of a team that wins a lot of races because of protests. You know,
right.
they put up.
She's definitely flagging some uniform violations out
Yeah,
there.
she's flagging uniform violations. She's like, "Hey, you're outside the line," or like, "Oh, I saw him step outside of the exchange zone." She's definitely flagging uniform violations. Yeah, she's like,
Carol
"Oh, I
was
see them wearing jewelry. Oh, they have headphones on the infield. All that stuff." She's watching it all, and that's how they win every single title.
her favorite meet. Carol Baskin's favorite track meet was the 2018 World Indoor Championships.
Oh yeah, she was getting off on that. Yeah, that shows that.
That more DQs, more DQs.
That's so true.
That's
She would
so. Wait,
she would DQ everyone. Oh my goodness.
eh,
Oh man.
is there really, without telling me what happens, is there really going to be something in the last 20 minutes that shocks me?
Yeah. I
Of
mean,
course
what's
there
the
is,
lesson
right?
that happened? That
I don't know. He's in. I don't want to spoil it for
well, he's
anybody.
currently on. He's about to be on trial, right? You know that part, right?
Yeah.
But
There
you
may
don't know
only
the
be.
result. You don't know
There
the
may even.
result of the trial, right?
No, let me get my iPad out. Let me see exactly where I'm at here. As well, we can do this live. I don't remember when I fell asleep. All I remember was that. Let's see. We
So
have.
Carol is the coach who always gets the uniform violation DQs called. I'm trying to think who Jeff Lowe is. The
Oh man, Jeff Lowe is the kid. I know who Jeff Lowe is. I have
who's that?
13 minutes. I have
Eight.
13 minutes left.
Who's Jeff Lowe?
Jeff Lowe's the kid who transfers to your school senior year, and during like the last part of summer workouts, he looks like he can really help you, and he tells you his times from his old school, but then you go and look up, and you're like, well, those aren't. There's no Jeff Lowe at this high school, and then you realize that in the workouts, like he's gone for like a portion of the workout, and then he just comes back, and all of a sudden he's like super fresh and running fast, and then you realize there was no Jeff Lowe at that old high school, and he's gone before the first meet.
Yeah. Jeff Lowe is someone who would lie about his like times. You know, uses like relay splits as a PRs, stuff like that. You know.
Jeff Lowe, before Britney Spears broke 6 in the 100, Jeff Lowe said that he broke 6 in the 100.
Yes. In fact, Jeff Lowe, uh, I think has broken 5 in the 100. Yeah, he's been that good. Man, there's a lot of different track characters. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a good thing we're not tying. See, what I originally wanted to do is I wanted to cast it right, and I wanted to cast it with like track athletes. But then I
Ooh.
realized like associating any of these people with an actual human being might be looked upon as like insulting to that human being because no one really has redeeming qualities in a way. You know, like how would someone
Yeah.
feel if we announced who Carol Baskin is in the track world? Like that person would not be too happy. They could probably sue us for libel or slander, right? And we
I
don't want
like the
that.
way you did archetypes, which was a smart way to do
Yeah.
this. You painted a picture of who they were, because you're basically, yeah, you're trying to recast it. You're trying to say what's the most ridiculous running type documentary you could come up with, and what ingredients would it need to get there. But I mean, in this show, someone gets their arm ripped off by a tiger, and it's like the 100th biggest part of the show.
And then it happens. Joe Exotic has the foresight to put on a bomber jacket with a ambulance EMT logo on it. Like, who has
Yeah.
that in their house? And when that happens, the first thing they do is like, oh, I got to make sure I put on the right jacket for this situation.
Yeah.
And then he ends it with like, the best line I feel like was like, as soon as this happens, one of the first things he says is, I'm never going to recover from this financially. Like, that's
Yeah.
like on
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
mind. His trainer ripped his arm off, ripped their arm off. Comes back 7 days later. It was ridiculous. Oh man.
And the
So
trainer's 100% behind him too. Oh, I didn't want the media
yeah,
getting this and using this against him. It's like, wait a whoa, whoa, whoa. Anyway, if
the
you haven't
media.
seen it, if you haven't seen it, it's a good watch. I highly recommend it. You'll understand more of the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of this podcast. If you didn't, I apologize.
And one last thing I want to say about it. The the documentary was filmed over 5 years, and because I've been now doing a lot of producing for our FloTrack documentaries, I kind of watch it from a lens of like, wow, I know what it took for them to do that. Like, oh, they went even beyond because they filmed something for 5 years, right? And I
Yeah.
kind of was comparing it to like when we filmed the NAU series for 3 or 4 months, right? And I think about the
5
number of
years. I
shoots
think
we
it was
did,
5.
5 5 years, and it's just kind of interesting. I also just see like the footage they got, and I'm always thinking like, oh man, it would have been great to get that moment when we filmed the Houston series, or this moment when we did the NAU
Mhm.
series, because I think about like all the stuff that you just miss naturally. Like in my opinion, like the NAU series, right? Imagine
Yeah.
if we didn't turn the camera off after cross country, if we kept it going through this indoor season, and then ended it with what happened with Corona, and like that would have made that documentary even like crazier, because then you have, oh, you think it's over after cross country, but wait, they have this rally, they run all these fast times, they have this big new
Mhm.
arc to create, and then it comes crashing down again, right? And then you
Yeah.
think, oh no, I want to keep filming, and I want to film any of you through the virus, and then see if they can come back cross country. Like you just keep on thinking of like, because this Joe Exotic thing, they first filmed it, they didn't know it was going to end up the way it did. They were thinking it was going to be something completely different when they started. Like they weren't
Yeah.
thinking it's going to be a kill the hire plot when they said, hey, can we come film you? And I think about that NAU, like you think it's going to be one thing, but it could become even more. So that's what
Well,
I
that's
think about
the
is like opportunities in the track world, documentary wise.
Well, that's what a lot of good documentaries are, right? Remember Icarus, the doping one? It starts off with the guy's a cyclist and he starts taking PEDs to see how good he'll be. And then he gets hooked in with the Russian whistleblower. And then it becomes all about nefarious doping in Russia. That's, I think my favorite part of that of documentaries is just when it takes a complete turn. Didn't they have the benefit though they said Jeff Lowe taped everything. So they probably got access to that footage. And then the reality TV producer, the guy who's in he's in the first whatever episodes, and then he
Yeah.
gets accused of doing something bad, which clearly was not him. It was our protagonist that did it. Um, I think he had a lot of footage. Or wait, did all of his stuff go away?
No,
Did he
some of
lose
his
all of his
footage,
footage?
I think he had some, like, when he said it all got gone away, like a majority of it, but there were some clips from his thing that, like, they showed, like, the intro that he created for him and stuff like that. That was,
Yeah,
it wasn't all the
they
footage,
had a
but it was a
lot.
majority of it, yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of people willing to chip in footage, but you're right. They just follow where the story goes. And with this one, can you imagine the production meetings every couple weeks with this thing? Guys, I know I
Yeah,
said last week was the craziest, but this week,
and like their
this week,
it's like, hey man, like they're always like, all right, you ready for us to, you ready to edit it and put it up? We're ready to go. This is probably like in 2016, or like, or 2017. No, it was in 2016. Like, yeah, man, we got the story, and then they realize, but he's running for president now. Oh, okay, no, we got to keep going, and they cover him running for president. And it's like, all right, now we're done. Oh, and then this happens. All right, now we're done. Yeah, I can't imagine the the whoever overseeing boss, the executive producer, was kind of like, all right, now it's done. But then they're like, well, actually, this happened. It's like, all right, but now that it
yeah.
completely is done, it's done. They yeah. But
Whoever's
yeah, it's
idea
interesting.
it was, well, once the main guy ends up in jail, like you at least have a little time, right? You at least have a
Yeah,
break because the legal system moves slowly enough to where you can get this out before it's not completely gone. Yeah, whoever said let's just keep going for a little longer on that project deserves a raise because
yes.
that was the key. That was the key. Just keep going. Just keep unwinding the string there. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I'm excited for the last 13 minutes.
I'm gonna use that when my boss at Flow says, hey, I think it's time to like put an end to your project you're working on. But like, hey, that what the person who said that to the Joe Exotic, it wasn't a good idea. So maybe I have my next Joe Exotic project coming up. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I'm going to say.
What do you say about Carol Baskin? Huh? Huh? No, but the NAU thing is a perfect example, right? You just never
Yeah.
know. Um, there's a sports documentary. I cannot think of the name of it. Um, I'm sure I don't know if you've come across it, but basically it started off with this guy who was, I think he was a professor at UW in Seattle, and he got really into coaching his daughter's basketball team. And the story was just like unconventional guy who knows nothing about sports, but he's applying all these. This was like before advanced analytics in basketball, basically. Um, and he's applying all these things to his daughter's basketball team, and he sticks with her, and he keeps coaching her, and he keeps coaching her, and he keeps coaching her. So there's all this old footage, and that's like what the doc is supposed to be about. Um, but then midway through, not midway through, towards the end, just because they kept filming with everything, and they had all this amazing footage. It's called The Heart of the Game. The Heart of the Game from
Ooh.
2005. Oh, it's narrated by Ludacris. I didn't remember that. Um, but anyway, but that's what it reminded me of. Like it started off as one thing, and it ended up in a kind of completely different place, and you have no idea where it's going to go. And then by the end, you're like, oh, okay, it's about this person, but it started off for completely different reasons. Not as wild as Joe Exotic though, so you have to sort of temper your expectations if you're into just memeable moments. My favorite guy, I think, of the whole thing is the campaign manager. I think that guy's my
Yes.
favorite.
Yes. He was like, yeah, I loved him. He works at Walmart selling gun ammo, and then all of a sudden he's a presidential campaign manager. It's great.
And he's like, I'm a libertarian, so this is how I feel about the federal government.
Oh, that was the best line ever. I love that line. As a fellow libertarian, I appreciated that line. So
it was someone posted on Twitter. It's like it shows how crazy that whole series was that like didn't become the meme from the entire
yeah,
thing because there's like a million other crazy things, but as a meme that was nuts. There's a new Olympic date. It's
yeah.
pretty much right when we thought it would be. It's 1 year, um, almost 1 year to the day of when the Olympics were going to be held this year. So July 23rd through August 8th. Write that down. I'll say it again so that way you can write this down. It's not going to be printed anywhere else. July 23rd to August 8th, which I think that means track would start on the 31st and go through maybe on the 1st. Not entirely sure. But yeah, right in that slot time or that time slot
Yeah,
that we thought.
so the one thing I always think about it is I wonder how close. So one interesting thing about the Olympic trials that were going to happen this year was how close they were to the end of NCAAs, and I
Mm-hmm.
always thought that they were kind of too close to NCAAs because if you're peaking for NCAAs, you're going to be kind of and have to go roll in right the following week to do an Olympic trials. You're not going to survive, right? Um, and and I think they had to do that because of where they put the trials in the time schedule. So I think it might be the same, right? Will there be at least is it going to be back to back NCAA USA trials most likely because of
I mean,
when the Olympics are?
they haven't announced trials, but I would guess they would put trials in the exact same spot, and they would put NCAA's in the exact same spot. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. We could get basically a repeat of this year's schedule. Also, don't know where they're going to put. Are they going to put NCAA's in Austin again? Because it was supposed to be Austin this year, or are they going to move
No.
it to Eugene? They're going to move it to Eugene. Well, because then okay, so then Eugene is going to host next year.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I'm guessing they'll keep Pac-12s there, right? Because they didn't get to do it, and they'll have the Oregon State meet, and they'll have the Prefontaine Classic, and then they'll have NCAA's, and then they'll have the Olympic trials. I mean, they've done a crazy schedule before, but that's a lot for the first year of the stadium.
Well, in general, for a lot of these like bids in general, like when NCAA cancels all these events, does it just carry over to do all those venues lose the bid?
I don't think they've decided that yet. That's the big
Yeah.
question. I think if I'm Hayward Field, if I'm in charge of that operation, I'd rather not probably do NCAA's. Excuse me. because you have a finite amount of officials, right? That's just a lot. That's like a lot of
Yeah.
big time meets for that first year when you're still working out the kinks. So I'd be surprised. Now they said World Athletics obviously cool with the decision. Now they're working on moving Worlds to 2022. I think they'll be able to make that work. I mean, if you can move the Olympics around, you can make the other stuff work, and that'd be the
Well,
right decision, obviously.
the big situation with moving Worlds to 2022 is it messes. It doesn't really affect Americans, but it messes with the Commonwealth and European championships.
Yeah,
And those were basically. I wonder if they're going to move then, or do you
yes,
think they are?
They said they're in talks to
But
move those. Yeah,
but where would they move them? Because the Commonwealth and European,
February,
that's like an all. Isn't that like an all
March.
sport type event? It's not just track, right? Commonwealth Games is kind of like a mini Olympics, and same with European champs.
No,
Right?
Euros is just track. Euros is just track, I think.
Is it? I don't think it is. No, I think it's European athletic. I think it's like sailing.
Wow.
Run.
Sailing,
Like
just put them out in the water. Just let them get on their boat and go. No, you're right with Commonwealth, but okay. So why couldn't you do Commonwealth in? The last Commonwealth was super early, right? Because it was a Southern Hemisphere
Australia.
Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did that in March or April. Whereas, yeah, I just feel like that you can put enough time in between them. And look, if you overlap too close to Commonwealth, then athletes are just going to have to decide, do you want to run in the World Championships or do you want to run the Commonwealth Games? And I think we know what the answer to that's going to be from the track perspective. So something has to give
Whichever
here, right?
one I can get a medal in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something has to give here. This is not going to be perfect. This is not an ideal situation. So something's going to have to be sacrificed. So I don't want to let perfect be the enemy of good here. I want to make sure that everybody is. Look, I thought it was kind of funny when they said, when the IOC was like, look, we're going to find a date in 2021. We're going to talk to the different sport federations. There's how many different sport federations? 40, 50, something like that.
33.
30. Okay. Is that actually true, or did you just name a number?
I think so. No, I think it's 33.
Okay. And we're going to get it straight. I like the idea of all but one coming back and being like, okay, yep, that date works fine. End of July, early August. But then badminton's like, nah, it conflicts with a duel we got going on. And then just like at a certain point, the Olympics are like, hey, we're the freaking Olympics. This is when our date is. You guys figure it out. You guys figure out when you want to do your trials and your championships and all that other stuff. But let's not mix this thing up.
It would have been crazy if they decided to do it like in a season that wasn't normal. Like if they did it like early spring or like fall or winter time, then people would be like, all right, you're messing with the feng shui of the groove, right? So I think that's as long as they kept it in the summer months, it was gonna be fine.
But say, for example, Eugene 2021 could not move for whatever reason. Like, it is an impossibility. Suspend your disbelief about why that would be the case, but just say Eugene 2021 and it's in the end of August or the middle of August, right? But then the Olympics got the okay from literally every other sport to move it to the date they're going to move it. They'd be like, okay, tough track. Here's when the Olympics are. Deal with it. Like the World Championships are going to be 2 months after track. That's just how it's going to be, right? And I think 99% of the population it cares about the Olympics. They don't care about the World Championships, and the IOC would know that, and then they would move on, and then we would go to 2022, and there'd be a dead year to be a super bummer because we'd be like, hey, there should be World Championships this year, but there's not. So I just think they had a lot of leverage in this situation.
Yes, I agree. One thing I'm thinking about is obviously we're a track podcast, but we just spent 30 minutes talking about a Netflix show. So I'm going to spend another few minutes.
/track podcast, yeah.
Yeah, Netflix /track podcast. One thing I think it might affect is basketball. So hear me out, right? So the basketball season, they're going to have it. They're going to have the NBA season. They said they're going to do it, but it's going to be delayed, right? So they might start June 1st. So that means basically the NBA playoffs are going to go into August and September of this year, but they're not going to then start the next season right away, right? So they're going to have to push back the 2021 season, and when you push that back, there's a chance that the NBA Finals could be going on during the Olympics. Wouldn't that be
Mm,
wild? And if that
that'd be
did, would that kind of like, would you rather play for Team USA or play for your city team in an NBA semifinal?
for your NBA team because they're paying you millions of dollars. That's not a hard question at all. I think, and I'm not just saying this from a Spurs fan perspective. I think they should just call the season and then start fresh again.
You've said that after like 3 games into the year, you're looking
Mm-hmm,
for the call of
mm-hmm.
the season. So
It just
you
didn't feel
can't
right. It
talk.
didn't have.
There is no way you're going to feel any sympathy from anyone. You're a Spurs fan. You've made the playoffs every freaking year of your entire life. You've won all these
Mm-hmm.
titles. I don't care that you guys suck. Like, it's okay. You're allowed to like deal with it. Welcome to the
We
real
don't
world where
suck.
you suck every few years.
We don't suck. We were preparing for a 15-game win streak, which would have propelled us in the playoffs if not for this unforeseen event that happened. So I resent that, Gordon. Yeah, I just think at a certain point you push it back. You're right. You push it back so far, and then okay, now it's screwed up 2 seasons, right? It's screwed up the current
Yeah.
season, and then it's going to screw up next season. If they cut it down from 82, I don't think anybody would be mad though, right? If the
No,
next
I
year's a
mean
70-game season, I don't know.
the TV deal people will be mad because they don't get their money. So
Yeah, but again, everybody's going to have to figure out. Everybody's going to have to realize it's not going to be the same. So you got to decide how you want it to how you want it to go. And if you're badminton or if you're a TV executive, you're not going to get everything exactly the way you want it.
well, here's the thing though.
What's the thing?
We can pretend that sports exist because we want to crown champions and see competition, but sports exist because it's a business. And so these sports governing bodies should make business decisions, not like the right thing decisions in a way, right? Because like the only reason these sports exist is because they make money and they are funded. You're able to watch it, right? So we like to
Right.
pretend that
But
sports are just like a hobby, but they're not. They're like an actual like industry that is trying to make money and pay employees and do this. So like I don't know. I can
I
never
just think
blame
if you
a sports federation for making a money decision because that's their job.
oh, I will because I'll give you a hypothetical. I mean, say the NBA season didn't start until November and then you still try to cram 82 games in or December. That'd be insane. Even from a business perspective, that would be insane because you'd see a rise in injuries. You'd see a rise even more in load management. I don't think it would be a smart. I don't think it'd be a smart business decision even. So there's a chance
Well,
that
no, I
both
think
those
the
things
NBA is going
align.
to. No, I think the NBA is just going to say you're going to either play in the NBA playoffs or play in the Olympics. You choose, which
Yeah,
is
no, I'm just
fine.
talking
I
about
mean,
next. I'm
okay.
just talking about next year, like in terms of a truncated schedule. Because you're saying if you cut down, well, whatever sport it is, if you cut down meets or if you cut down games, right, to accommodate this shortened schedule, that it's going to cost them money. Well, yeah, it's true, but it's also the reality of the fact is you can't ask the human body to do that much in that small period of time. And if you do that, and I don't think it's going to be good on the other end because there is going to be an uptick in injuries and people sitting out, and just in general, you're going to get all that star players saying this is stupid. Why are we doing this? It's not going to be a good look for them.
Well, I think what the NBA will do is they'll never cut the season short. What they'll do is they'll just slowly get it back to where it was. So what they normally start around Halloween, right? So the 2021
Yeah.
season will start on Christmas. The 2022 season will start December 10th, and then the next one will start December 1, and they'll keep going back. So it'll take 10 years to get back to schedule, but without sacrifice. That's what I think we'll do. So
That's
that's my
interesting.
opinion.
Well, as long as the
You
Sixers
know,
trade Embiid, it's
no
fine.
man,
I think we're all good.
dude. I had a dream last night that Embiid died from coronavirus. It was awful. It was not good.
Oh,
It
that's
was not a
sad.
good dream. Yeah,
That's sad.
because
Also,
I'm starting to see like now on my Twitter trends, like every time a famous person dies, they're like telling me
oh
about
yeah,
it. Because like
yeah,
apparently when
yeah.
famous people die, it's more important than when the 2,000 other people die. But yeah, it's like weird because you think right now the famous people are kind of like not to like they're not as famous. You're like, oh, I guess they had a job that was kind of relevant. Like one was like a CBS executive. It's like, all right, no one knows who this person is. It's the same thing as a bank executive, like whatever, like or anyone, right? That's their job. But I was thinking, like, eventually it's going to get to a more and more famous person, right? Eventually we're going to have a person that we all know that's going to die, right? Like, it's bound to
Yeah,
happen.
this got really dark, and the dark stuff is for Lincoln episodes. So I'm going to
Okay,
switch
yes.
gears here. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is our email address, and we got an email that I want to read.
We
Are you ready
do?
for this, Gordon?
I'm ready for the
Yes.
email. I did see one email that was, like, not a real email. I don't know how they sent it to us. Did you see that? You deleted it. I saw you deleted the email.
Oh, it was a spam email. Yeah. You
Yeah,
get the
spam email.
look when you're in the when you're in the podcast industry, like we are now, and we've been for the past month. You get a lot of people who are trying to bend your ear for this product or that product, and maybe they're just typing in the words podcast into Google and then doing a mass email to everybody. Maybe that's what
That's probably what
happened.
it was. Yes.
Yeah, that's 100% what it was. But this email is from Frank, who said he's
What's
a
up,
huge
Frank?
fan of the show. Now he says he's a huge fan of the show, but that might have been before Tiger King and Gordon got super depressed on the show. So for the few fans that we have left,
Tiger King
he
was a good
wants to know.
episode. Come on. It's good.
Yeah, well, if people didn't watch it, we should have put, hey, you should watch the Tiger King before tuning in. Anyway, Frank wants to know, do you think Christian Coleman will break the American record in the 100-meter dash at the Olympic trials with another year of training under his belt? And with the U.S. 400-meter dash field so vast, who do you think makes the team for Tokyo 2021? What do you got
First
here,
of all,
Gordon?
I believe they're still calling it Tokyo 2020, even though it's held in 2021. That's official. They're not changing the branding. So we're just
Okay.
going to live in a weird reality where 2021 is 2022. I mean, 2021 is 2020. All right. So, question, first one. What American record is 969?
969, yep. Tyson game.
Yeah. What's Coleman's current PB?
You don't have Christian Coleman's PB memorized?
No, you don't either. I see you looking at your computer screen trying to look it
No.
up.
976.
What is Coleman? So 976, 969. Does he break it?
Yep. You asking me?
I'm thinking. I don't think so. And I just think we need. I mean, now that I think about it, maybe, but I don't think so. I think Noah Lyles isn't good enough or ready to push Coleman to that time. Like, I think in order for someone to get that time, they need to be pushed, and
That's a weird
Lyles isn't
take.
going to push him yet. I still think Lyles is going to push him yet. I think Lyles is not a 9'7" guy, and so there's a 9'6" guy. Right? It's just like I think Lyles right now is a
Turn that into an
9.
indictment on Lyles.
I think Lyles is a 9'8" guy. Right? I don't know.
It's
and
100. You don't need to be pushed.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
100. Why does it need to be pushed? Britney Spears
You need
ran
to be pushed.
5.97 by herself.
You need to be pushed, man.
Solo.
No,
Shit. So,
there's
look.
You need to be pushed.
Okay, I think Coleman. We're getting to the point where we're like peak Coleman, right? And I think he's going to end his career as the American record holder in the 100. I see him getting, not, I think just under it, but I see a 6'7" or a 6'8" in his future. And I think that's going to be next year. I mean, look at how he did just his one race indoors. He was already almost where he was last year after a bunch of indoor races. So I think we're going to see it in Tokyo. Let's see. He's born in 96. So how old is he? 24 right now? Is that right?
Yeah.
Maybe 25 next year? Yeah. So I think interesting for him though. Now he has like a run of championships, right? Because there's no off year. So now he gets to go 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
I think he
5
might do
straight
it.
years.
I could see him doing it in 2022 at the World Championships because Eugene is a fake wind tunnel that they don't call out because there's so many fast wind legal times in Eugene that aren't really wind legal in my opinion. That's just my take.
Conspiracy.
I think there's some timers there who are like, 2.1, let's just round that down to 1.9. That's what I think.
Whoa. Wow. Okay.
There's times when it was really windy, and then all of a sudden it was a 2.0, and I'm like, come on, no, that can't be it. I mean, the thing is, there's no not to get a conspiracy. There's no like,
too late. You're there.
there's no like oversight Like a timer can just lie. How do we just believe timers with their wind gauges? We just like we don't think that there's some underground market of like, hey, give me a legal wind. I need a legal like we just trust them. And we
Yep.
trust timers more than I think we should. Not not to disrespect timers, but like we trust them that they're like their lean photo they didn't alter at all. We just like, oh yeah, it's their computer. We just trust their computer. Like a timer would never lie. Like we think every timer is some like saint that would never ever want to rig a race, whether make it win legal or not. Like how do we know Oregon just has this giant slush fund that they're given to the timers to ensure that they get win legal marks every time? It's crazy how often there's a wind legal mark at NCAAs, but like in the prelims, it wasn't wind legal, and all of a sudden in the final, it's wind legal. I don't know, man. I'm just saying, who's checking the timers to make sure they're not lying? We just trust them. Do they have to take some? Are they like these? Just
This is by
like how
far
do
the
we
dumbest
know?
thing I've ever heard.
It's not that dumb. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Do you think there has been a timer in the history of timing events that lied?
Ever? Yes,
Yes.
of course. At
There
some
you go.
point,
So
you've
if
watched too
that,
much Tiger King, though.
but if that can happen, it could happen anywhere. It could happen at the Olympic level. It could.
Look,
We're just
um,
we're just trusting their
there's too
computers.
much.
Computers have errors, man.
Well, okay, so that I think that is actually I believe that more than the other thing. I don't believe malicious lying. I believe more that there could be some sort of technological glitch at some point. Um, the dimensions of Hayward will have changed, so we don't know what the
Yes.
wind will be and how it will play. Um, the surface there has always been fast though too. I mean, yes, you get good winds. There's a lot of wind illegal times there as well. Remember DeGrasse in the NCAA's that year had huge
Yeah.
winds behind him, and they read them as huge winds. There's been a lot of wind aided pre-classic times, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not with you on that whole conspiracy.
Well,
Um,
I will say this.
Christian Coleman is going to
I
break the world record, and he's going to do it outright in a race where there's no issue about the wind. There, I will
I
say
think
he's going to do it next year.
I think he'll run in all conditions American record because I think it will be windy. But I will say this. Back to my timer rant. I do know of an event that the result is in question and we're not allowed to talk about it publicly. I'm just saying there's a race out there that happened in the past 6 years where we don't know who really it was like a leaning. It was like the who we don't really know for sure who truly won. And yeah, I know what event it is. There's like 3 people also who are on it who know that this event might be in question. But I'm just saying, timers. Okay, I'm not. Timers are good. We should trust them. They are the most important thing for our sport. I don't think they're all liars. I think they're all trustworthy people. Like everyone's given the benefit of the doubt. I'm just saying, like, there's bad people in
You
this world.
backtracked pretty quick.
You could easily have a timer who's like, I'm gonna make something an American record, or I'm gonna make something win legal or not. I don't know. Just saying. Just saying.
It's more the technology that I'm concerned with. I don't
Yes.
think they have any interest in changing anything maliciously. But yeah, that went a direction I didn't think it was going to go. I'll give you that. I think you've been
That
hanging out
stress
with
you out. Sorry.
you've been hanging out with Jeff too much at the preserve, opening the zoo,
Just saying, man.
talking to the feds. The second part of his question: who makes the U.S. team for
In the
2021
400.
in the 400? Yeah, I'm guessing I guess he's saying men, but we can do men and women if you want.
I know who's not making the team. Allison Felix.
Just
She's getting
just start with who's on the team. His question was who's on the team.
okay. Men, I'll go Norman, Curly, and then Kamari.
Mm.
Montgomery.
I think Justin Robinson might have a chance.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. He's right in that he'll be right in that age sweet spot, right?
That's a
Kind of
good
like
point. Yeah.
Will London
Yeah.
making that team after he got 7th in NCAAs and then got top 3 at USA's. The year's going to be so weird, but I could see him sneaking in there. I feel confident about Norman and Curley, obviously. Strother, Norwood. You go through all the usual suspects. Montgomery. Who else are we missing? Who is like a freshman or sophomore this year at the NCAA level who we didn't really get to see at NCAA's? Oh, the guy from
Randolph Ross,
yeah,
the North
yep,
Carolina AT&T. Trevor Stewart's pretty good. I mean, he didn't run good this past indoor season, but he's not really an indoor guy. Yeah, I mean, Quincy
I
Hall's good, but he's going to be
think
in the
it's
400
that's
hurdles.
gonna yeah. I think we'll see Norman and Curley, and then we'll see one surprise. And I think Robinson would count as a surprise just because he
Yeah,
is not known by many, even though he's been laying down some crazy splits.
and I would go with Montgomery for that third spot. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he. I mean,
Women's
he's the NCAA champion last year. He didn't have a good U.S. champs this past year, but he was the U.S. He won USA's and he won NCAA's in back-to-back years. So I feel like that means something. But
yeah.
yeah,
Women's side of things, man, it's tough right now to sort that out. I think Jonathan is solid in there. I think she's the favorite. Wembley was good and then had an injury before Worlds. I might even say the same team we just had. Wembley, Francis, and Jonathan.
so what about Kendall
I could
Ellis?
see that.
What about Kendall Ellis?
I mean, saying like I'd put her. So she made it too because Francis had the bye, right? So it was those four women.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean she's in that next group. Someone like Lena Irby is really interesting to me because she had a great year and then went pro and hasn't got back to where she was as a collegiate yet. Um, and there's going to be another, someone like Chloe Abbott or Alexis Holmes after another year could be really
here
good.
here's a thought on the women's 400 that might be interesting. Is do you think someone like Shamir Little will abandon the 400 hurdles to try to make a 400 team? Because
That's a good question. But no, I don't.
so who would be the 4 hurdle team would be Muhammad, McLaughlin, and
Either Spencer or Little, or if Corey Carter gets it back, she'd be in
yeah.
there.
But like
Maybe
you'd think,
maybe Anna Cockrell.
see, I think I could see like Shamir Little can split 49 seconds in a 4x4. I think there might be one of those big four of Spencer, Little, McLaughlin, and Muhammad who will be like, hey, I think mainly be Spencer or Little. Be like, I have a better shot again, top three into flat 400 than I do getting top three when you have the two greatest 400-meter hurdlers of all time in their prime. So I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my thought. I mean, I
No,
know
it's
Ashley
not of
Spencer
all.
tried to do that like in 2016, didn't she? Try to like do both.
Well, she started off she was running a lot of flat 400s, and then
Yeah,
400 hurdles. So yeah. Look, if you're fast at the 400 hurdles, you're gonna be fast in the 400. It's just the way it works.
yeah,
So you could be a factor. The two best would obviously be McLaughlin and Muhammad, but they're not going to do it because they're the best two in the
they're good
world.
enough.
So that
Yeah,
wouldn't make, yeah. But I mean, now this is where I want to see the trial schedule, and this is why as soon as I
yeah,
get it, I'm going to put it in the top of my screen right here, and I'm going to keep it there for the next. Oh man, what are we going to be at? 14 months? It's going to be a long time in my browser because I would love to see those two races possible, and I'd love to see the 400
yeah.
meter hurdles first. I'd love to see the 400 meter hurdles first because then you
Ooh,
could
that would be
see,
great.
yeah, if someone didn't get in the 400 meter hurdles, then they try to make it in the 400, and that'd be cool because the 400, you're right. The 400 our 400 hurdlers are the United States' 400 meter hurdlers are fast enough, and the open 400 right now is doable enough to where you could see some crossover. And what if the schedule works out even for Tokyo for a double? That would be nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the people who go 1, 2, 3 in the 400 are really the fourth, fifth, and sixth best 400-meter runners in the U.S. in my opinion.
Yeah, Jonathan's right now I'd say is still solid in there, but
Okay.
Muhammad McLaughlin are great. I mean, they are.
Yeah, they'll
They
go.
are. There's a reason they were on the 4x4, right? They
Yeah,
they weren't on there for fun. They weren't on there just because they ran a good race and people wanted to see them again. They were on there because they are two of the fastest four in the United States. But yeah,
yeah,
Spencer, you bring up a good point. I mean, Spencer almost made the Olympic team way back when she was at Illinois in the flat four. Could have made the relay pool probably. She's legit
yeah. That's
in
why
that event.
I think we would hope that the 400 hurdles are first, because then it would allow that fourth place 400 hurdler to at least do the flat four to at least make the relay pool, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're going to take the top 8 400-meter runners because of the mixed gender. You take the top
Yeah,
4 plus 2 plus another 2. So
yeah.
a lot
Now
of people, you
Obi
just have
gets
to
to
make the
always
final.
go. That's the rule. Obi
Yeah.
Abakwe is always on the mixed gender 4x4. You can't argue with success, right? Put Michael Cherry, run that
No.
team back. They had good chemistry. Run that same squad back. Who was that? Felix and I don't remember. I remember Michael Cherry. Was Will London on that final team? Might have been Will London. I'm not sure. All I know is they completely switched out their team before the prelims and the finals, and most countries are like scraping together to get a 400-meter runner to run that silly race. And the U.S. is like, nope, new 4 bodies in, go.
Okay. So to recap, I have Norman, Curley, Montgomery, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go with Jonathan. I think it'll be Jonathan, Kendall Ellis, and Phyllis Francis if I had to pick my 3.
Okay, yeah. I got the same. I got Wembley on there ahead of Els right now. And then I'll put Justin Robinson on there. Something unpredictable is going to happen in the 400. It's just trying to figure out what. And I have yes on a Coleman American record. You have no because of some conspiracy about timing. You have some really sad. You have some sad stuff about the current pandemic that we're not going to talk about. You have all your Tiger King takes. So we
I mean,
covered a lot of ground today.
the best thing we got out of this podcast is that Carol Baskins is that coach who gets people DQ'd for uniform violations. 100%. That's who Carol Baskins is. And she smiles with that trophy. She'll smile away. Oh my goodness.
And
People
she's just
who
like, it's not.
yeah,
The rules are the rules. It's not my
yeah.
fault that the other teams didn't follow the rules. And I started an online petition. It has 12 million Facebook likes that says that you can't break in early in the 800. Sorry, you're out.
It's
Yeah, they're
like
cool cats and
three of
kittens.
those three of your socks were white. The other pair of socks were black. So you can't have it.
All right. Well, that is it for
It's
this.
crazy. It is crazy though how high school officials are crazy about these uniform rules and all this stuff and jewelry and headphones. It's crazy how and then you get to college and they're kind of like, all right, it doesn't matter. Just show up.
Oh, yeah. And you get to the pros and it's like wear an enormous chain on your neck. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to try to choke yourself? Cool. Do it. We don't
Go
care.
for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for today's show. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, anywhere else. Oh, we're on FloTrack. We're on SoundCloud. You can find it anywhere. Tomorrow it'll be Lincoln and I. So Lincoln will lighten the mood a little bit here after this downer episode with Gordon, and then it'll be what's the schedule? Okay, then you and Lincoln on Wednesday, and then Thursday it'll be you and I again. So I'll watch the other 17, 13 minutes, however much I have left. I'll watch that before we talk again on Thursday, Gordon. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Alon for producing. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.